Hey guys, so I'm just gonna do a quick video on the Aero, the Acrobat, and how I approached the bass line and the left hand, because I'm not a virtuoso. I'm definitely just like a dude who likes the accordion. I think it's cool, so I figured I would just like share my thoughts on how I arrived at the chord choices that I chose and go from there. So let's jump in. Basically, the first step obviously is transcribe the melody and figure out what the chord structure is, which I can cover in a different video how I actually approached that. But basically, the piece is going to be an A flat minor, so I'm starting at the A flat reference bump here, and that's going to be my home bass. So the main chords of this piece are going to be A flat, E flat. You're going to have some E flat minor, so same home key there. On the other side of A flat, you have your D flat and D flat minor. And once at the end, you'll have a G flat used in there. But for the most part, it's going to be these three chords. And then occasionally one leap up to this, this sub bass row for a F flat or E substitution here. But we'll get into that. So just section by section, it's pretty repetitive. But just knowing like what the chords are and yeah, so we'll start from the beginning. Technically, we have a descending bass line. We have A flat, G, G flat, F, F flat, E flat. So it just keeps going down and descending. Initially I tried to figure out some voicings that would play that, but the more I played it, the more I worked on it. I was just trying to simplify it, because like I said, you want to be able to play it, not just struggle to find your voicings the whole time. So this is definitely like if you were a virtuoso, you'd find better arrangements for this, but this is just how I did it. So the melody that starts on the A flat major. We actually start just major for this opening bit, so just easy pulse there, and we're going to jump over to E flat major. Now here, instead of moving down to the G flat to play the bass of this next one, I'm just going to hang out on E flat minor, on the E flat again for the E flat minor, because it works. And then finally we go to the other side of the A flat. We're on the D flat now. Like I said, that's over F, but that's if you... It really doesn't make too much of a difference if you want to do it that way and you want to work on it with the descending line. That would be your F up there, but I'm just playing it over D flat. Now we go to D flat minor, and then E flat. Now the E flat here, the reason I'm holding it just as a sustained chord is I'm actually going to do a walk up here and walk up the rest of the A flat scale. So this is like part of the melodic minor scale. We're going to have those raised tones at the end. So we're going to do E flat, F, G, A flat, but in the left hand. So sub bass F, sub bass G, and then the A flat again. So all together, that first phrase. So let me do saying the notes that make more sense. A flat major, E flat, E flat minor, D flat, E flat minor, and then the walk up at the end. So yeah, that'll repeat. So we land on the E flat minor. Now here's the only part it gets a little tricky. I had to practice this leap a couple times. We're going to jump up to the E sub bass for this F flat chord. It's at the point. We're going to do an E in the bass, back down to the E flat. So you want to learn that jump there, and then have your A flat ready to go. Now, when we get to the next section, I do change the rhythm to be more of a pulse, just to create a little bit of texture difference when the right hand starts running. So I'm going to do same chords, basically. E flat major, E flat minor, D flat, D flat minor, E flat again, walk up, and now I'm going to go back to, and then same thing, same leap up here to the sub bass F flat. So altogether that section's going to sound like, and then that was the E flat. Now we're going to E flat minor, D flat, D flat minor, walk up, now the next section, this one was the hardest one. I don't know if I went a little too crazy here, but I decided that I was going to make it a little more fun by doing kind of a double time here. But like I kept the chords voicing very simple, so we're not moving too far. And the only tweak that I'm making to this one is instead of the E flat minor chord, when we get there, I'm going to jump to a G flat major. So instead of E flat minor over G flat, I'm jumping down to the G flat row and doing G flat major. And it'll sound like this. Here's the E flat, down to G flat major, D flat minor, that's E flat, and then A flat minor, and then once again. So with the main difference here is we're substituting the E flat minor for a G flat major, and I think it adds a little bit more color to what's happening in the right hand. And this one definitely took a lot of practicing just because the right hand was really like shreddy. So here's how this one goes. So it starts with the A flat minor, jumping to the E flat 7. And one other thing to note, a lot of times if you have the 7 chords, you can just play the major chord, and that's totally fine because the 7's being covered with the melody in the right hand. You're still getting that tonality, even if you only play the major triad with your left hand. I think that's kind of an understated point, but so yeah, we have that. That's our 7 right there in the right hand. So you're hearing the whole chord. Now we're going to go to the G flat major, and I think it just adds a little bit more juice. Here's the D flat major, D flat minor, jumping to the E flat, A flat minor, now the leap, so that was that, again, F flat, E flat. So yeah, that's really the hardest part about this arrangement is jumping up to for me anyways, was jumping up to the F flats. So all together that section is a little bit faster. Goodness. And then it goes back to A flat major just for that first chord. Yep. So yeah, all in all, it's basically like one chord progression with a couple different endings, whether you're walking up or you're doing the F flat change. And yeah, I just changed up a couple of the different textures. So you kind of have the original This matches sort of the original arrangements, kind of hard rock feel. Then when we get to the just pulsing it, and then it goes into double time. So yeah, that's how that arrangement works, and I hope that was interesting for somebody. If not, I don't care. Have a good day.